can't touch me. Trust me. Get it right, dog. We ain't never left. We just move the silence and death to the death. It's official. I survived what I've been through. Y'all got drama. The saga continues.
Brian Flores is really
win, nowhere.
Third and 12. Got Mahomes. My goodness. That might be the sack of the year. Jackson trying to escape and run for it. And he's got it more. Lamar Jackson down the sideline. Will they give it to him? They will. How about that? Check to
Going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere.
Ain't going nowhere.
We can't be stopped now. Cause it's bad boy for life.
We ain't.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Whole 9 Yards. My name is Justin. I'm here with my friend Carter, and today we're going to dive in all into the world of the NFL. Starting off, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in an NFC South matchup. The Bucs are looking to get on the board early, as Tom Brady would find Chris Godwin, who would deliver a mean stiff arm with authority. Godwin was a problem all game for the Saints. A couple plays later, and it was Brady finding Godwin again, this time for a touchdown score to put the Bucs up 7-0 early. This was Godwin's 4th touchdown of the year, and it was a good start for the Bucs, who were missing Antonio Brown. To the end of the second, and the Saints were looking to go up by 10, as Trevor Siemian would find Alex Arma Jr. for the touchdown. The Buccaneers needed to wake up in the second half if they wanted to get this win. To the third, being down by 9, Brady would deliver a deep shot to Mike Evans over Marshawn Lattimore for the touchdown. The Bucs were back in it and had a chance to win the game on their final drive.
2 yards of the line of scrimmage here on 2nd and 10. They bring it. It's picked up, giving Brady time, and he's intercepted. P.J. Williams still going all the way. He's in. Touchdown, New Orleans.
So Carter, do you think the New Orleans Saints are a legit team in the NFC South? Do you think they can make the playoffs?
Personally, I don't think they are because, with all the injuries they've had, Jameis Winston, their starting quarterback who's had an impressive season, is out for the year now with that torn ACL. Losing Michael Thomas again for the whole season, their wide receivers aren't the greatest, they aren't like superstar names. What do you think?
Personally, yeah, I'm not that big on the Saints. I never have been, and I think this division is just the Bucs to lose. I think this was a one-off. I really don't see the Bucs, dropping to the wild card and the Saints making it through. And the NFC is just a powerhouse league this year. You got the Cardinals are in it, the Rams are pretty good, the Seahawks, the Packers. So I just don't think the Saints can make it through.
Yeah, again, as I said before, I don't think with all injuries and they don't have a superstar team anymore. I just don't think they'll win the division. They could maybe make the playoffs, but it's a long shot just in case for saying that.
Yeah, I know, and I think the Saints did show out. Like Alvin Kamara had 19 carries for 61 yards and even had a touchdown. Traquan Smith caught a lot of balls and scored a touchdown himself. So I really don't know what to say about the Bucs because they have had a weakened secondary. Guys like Sean Murphy-Bunting, he's out for the year. Richard Sherman hasn't really been playing that well, and he is injured. So I don't really know what to make of this Bucs secondary, but I know their offense to me is the best in football. So I think this was just a one-off loss. I don't really see this happening again.
The Saints picked it off for that pick six to win the game. So
yeah, you know what? Stuff happens. The Saints are notorious for getting their pick sixes against great quarterbacks. So yeah, disappointing loss for the Bucs, but I'm personally not worried. But now let's take a look at an NFC matchup from last week as the New England Patriots took on the LA Chargers. The Chargers offensive line would power Austin Eckler into the end zone as he would score an early touchdown to go up 7-0. To the Patriots, and how would they respond? Well, rookie quarterback Mac Jones would deliver a deep shot all the way downfield to wide receiver Nelson Agholor. This would place the ball inside the 15 and would put the Patriots in great field position to score. A couple plays later, and it was Patriots running back Damien Harris who would get the Pats on the board with a touchdown score to even the game up at 7-7. The Patriots defense was getting to Justin Herbert all game, as here's Matt Judon delivering a vicious sack to send the second-year quarterback out of Oregon down on the field. To the fourth, and the Patriots defense was looking to put the dagger as former Charger Adrian Phillips would pick off Herbert for the second time in the game, but this time he would return it to the house for the pick six. The Patriots would hold on for a 27-24 victory, improving to 4-4 on the season. Yeah, so Carter, were you impressed with New England, or is this just a one-off win?
I'm pretty impressed, going against, Justin Herbert, top 5 MVP candidate, a great team in the Chargers. And, Mac Jones trying to find his way into becoming, that NFL starting superstar quarterback. So I think it is really impressive to beat the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm really big on this Patriots team. I think they got a lot of talent, guys like Mac Jones, Damon Harris, Nelson Aguilar. I think that's, they have a decent offense. Their defense is, top tier. Even though they just lost Stephon Gilmore, they still got guys like J.C. Jackson, Jalen Mills, and Matt Judon to carry the load. But I was rather impressed with the game management because, this year I've been really critical on the Patriots. I feel like Josh McDaniels hasn't had the best offensive coordinating season. Yeah. I don't think Matt Patricia as, the head of football operations, I don't think that's been good. So, yeah, I was impressed with the Patriots. I don't know if we could win the division this year. I'm a big Patriots fan. But I do think next year, it's ours to lose because I'm not that big on the other teams in the division. And, yeah, I just think more consistency is what we need.
Do you think the Chargers can win the division?
You know what? We'll talk about that later, about the other teams in that division, but I do think the Chargers right now can win that division. Justin Herbert is a stud. He is probably in the top 5, top 10 MVP candidates, and he is looking like a really good player despite only being in his second NFL season. So I am really impressed with how he's adjusted. And, they do got guys like Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler and Mike Williams, who's been playing really good. And they do have Asante Samuel Jr. on defense, who is the son of former Patriots cornerback Asante Samuel. Yeah. So I am really excited with them. But yeah, so moving on. And I think let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Football Giants, who were having the Monday Night Football matchup. The Chiefs had a slow start to the season, so it was to no one's surprise when Patrick Mahomes would throw his league-leading 10th interception on this drive. The Giants would, however, turn the ball back over on downs. On their next red zone drive, they would get into the end zone as it was Mahomes who was scrambling like Mike Vick to find Tyreek Hill in the end zone for the touchdown and a 7-0 lead. To the Giants, and Danny Dimes, a.k.a. Daniel Jones, would throw a long bomb to wide receiver John Ross, who would get the ball despite having safety Daniel Sorensen all over him. The ball would be placed inside the 25. It was a tight game in the fourth, and Jones would connect with tight end Evan Engram in the end zone to take the lead. However, with about a minute to go and all tied up, kicker Harrison Buckner would give the Chiefs a 3-point lead. With little time to go, Daniel Jones would take a sack on 4th and 15, which would result in a fumble, thus giving the Chiefs the win. Mahomes and company barely scraped out this nail-biting win, but they do improve to 4-4 on the season. So I know we just talked about that division, and yeah, I think the Chiefs, 4-4 haven't looked the best. Mahomes hasn't looked good this season. So
course, yeah.
Do you think they're a legit threat in the AFC?
I mean, yeah, Mahomes gets paid that big money, I still think he's probably the best quarterback in the league, even though he is struggling. I mean, some of the interceptions he has are from his wide receivers, either deflecting off their hands. He does throw some bad throws, if he's getting chased down in the pocket, he just throws it. But, I still think they can win the division. It's pretty close. The Raiders are in the lead with that. But do you think they could also win the division?
Okay. I know I might sound like the biggest Chiefs hater, but I just think Patrick Mahomes is really overrated. I'm also not that big on Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. I think their defense is massively weak. I don't think Tyrann Mathieu's that good. And yeah, I'm just not high on them the same way that I'm high on the LA Chargers. So I personally don't think they can win the division. They're 4-4 right now, and I don't really see them as a threat anymore. Teams like the Baltimore Ravens, teams like the Buffalo Bills. I think those are the legit threats in the AFC. And they have the same record as the Patriots. So who says the Patriots aren't as good as the Chiefs?
Yeah.
You never know what could happen. But no, I'm not worried about the Chiefs this year, and I just don't see them going back to the Super Bowl.
Do you think that for the Giants, they're a team that's not very good right now, but kind of in that rebuilding stage? Do you think this is going to be a good season for their development?
I think the Giants, you know how I feel about the Giants, obviously. But on a serious note, I think the New York Giants, I feel like they just need new management because on paper they have a really talented roster. They got Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, and on defense they got some decent people like James Bradbury. But I think they're 2 pieces away from being 2 pieces away, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Dave Gettleman hasn't been an amazing GM. I feel like, that loss of OBJ a couple years back wasn't the best decision. And maybe they'll pick him back up because he is a free agent now. But I do think the Giants, their rebuild is going to be a lot longer than the traditional rebuild. So I think, a win would have been very good for them, but I just don't see them doing anything this year or even next year.
I can agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, so, On the Giants, I think we need to move on to our Throwback Showdown segment. And yeah, let's run it back all the way to the NFL's 50th anniversary season back in 2015. There are a lot of very good games that season, but today let's look back to when Eli Manning went toe-to-toe with Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints as they would combine for 13 touchdowns. Drew Brees would be taking on an up-and-coming quarterback wide receiver duo in the form of Manning and Beckham. In the first, it was Eli to Odell for the touchdown score, as OBJ would top it off with a little dance. And boy, there are many dances to come for number 13. The Saints would answer back with an unexpected flea flicker, as Brees would fire it to the end zone to Willie Snead for the touchdown. The score was tied at 7-7, and we were set for a shootout and a classic of a game. To the third, and it was Manning to Beckham once again, as Eli would deliver a deep shot to Odell, who would score his third touchdown of the game and would seal it off with a spike. 13 was having his day. Brees and the Saints would answer back, as he would deliver a beautiful touchdown pass to tight end Ben Watson to extend the lead to 14 going into the fourth. The Saints were at home and they were rolling. Eli and the Giants weren't backing down, as Manning would connect with wide receiver Dwayne Harris in the end zone to tie it up. With just 5 seconds to go, it was Saints kicker Kai Forbath to end the game off in style, as he would seal the game with an amazing kick, and this game would go down as Brees and Manning's best performances in their iconic NFL season. And yeah, I just really think that, that game just shows how great Brees really was in his prime, getting 7 touchdowns in one game, That was probably the last time he was elite, I would say. What would you have to say about that?
He's had a lot of good seasons with the Saints. After that, they made the playoffs. Just couldn't beat the teams, either due to maybe some penalty calls. But, Drew Brees was still pretty good even last year. He's been a great quarterback his whole career. And I think, that game just showcased, you can be an old quarterback and still be amazing by throwing those 7 touchdowns and 500 yards.
Yeah, that flea flicker was really good. And that's when he still had his arm strength. Even Eli Manning, that towards the end of his career, they were like, yeah, he couldn't throw the ball past 20 yards, but he was throwing some bombs to Odell that day. And yeah, that was just the epitome. I feel old because now there's just no there's no Eli or Drew Brees in the league anymore. So I feel like back in 2015, that's when I feel like the Saints and Giants were last, legit contenders. Nowadays, they're just either not making the playoffs or making the playoffs and just flopping out of them.
Yeah.
So I think, that's when football was good for those fan bases. So
yeah, I believe that
as the time to go away. But moving on, we want to focus on our fantasy football players of the week. In question today, we have a surprise in Jets quarterback Mike White. He put up some really impressive numbers, getting 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, which equates to 26 fantasy points. So yeah, Carter, what are your thoughts on Mike White's performance?
I've never heard of this guy before. I don't know, where he played or anything, but what a great game for, the Jets, beating the Cincinnati Bengals, who are having an amazing year this year, coming off Joe Burrow coming back from injury. But, it's a story to see, a guy that really no one knows, balls out and, wins the game for the Jets, who are having a horrible season right now.
Yeah, I just can't take the Jets seriously at all. And when I saw Mike White come in, I was like, I just don't think this is going to lead to anything. And then he balls out and has probably the best performance of the week. He led all the quarterbacks in passing yards, and someone actually won, I think, $26,000 because they bet that he would do that.
Exactly.
So he did it, yeah. He made some money. So congrats to Mike White for making on our fantasy players of the week. I also want to talk about wide receiver Amari Cooper for the Dallas Cowboys. He had 8 catches for 122 yards and 1 touchdown, which equates to 26 fantasy points, just like White. The Dallas Cowboys have a lot of talent around them, so this is a really impressive achievement. It's just a great game for Cooper. So what are your thoughts on him this season?
Amari Cooper, he's been one of the best. He actually hasn't dropped the ball this year. All his targets have been on target, so he's caught the ball every time. But I think he's having a good season to help the Cowboys, make that playoff push after they had a horrible season last year. And, he's certifying himself as a top 5 wide receiver this season.
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott has, he's been elite. I've always been a big fan of Prescott. I think the way he can connect with players such as Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, it just shows how good he is and how good that Dallas offense really is. So yeah, Cooper had a really good game. But now let's talk about some players who didn't have a good game and might have let you down this week in fantasy. So first off, we got wide receiver Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. He's usually looking like a top talent, but this weekend he only had 2 catches for 21 yards and 4 points. I personally had Jefferson on my team, And yeah, you know, I still won, but I could have lost because of him. So very disappointed with him. But yeah, Carter, what are your thoughts on Jefferson's struggles this weekend?
I mean, you know, he's been a great player all year. You know, even last year winning Rookie of the Year, you know, breaking rookie records for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, it's a slow game. He's been pretty good all year. I feel like fantasy players that, you know, won't hurt him as much. There's some people that are really into it, but it's casual. But I think, you know, even though he had one bad game, he's still got many more good games to come in this season.
Yeah. Same can be said about quarterback Kyler Murray, who has usually been one of the best quarterbacks in the league when it comes to fantasy, but he only had 9 points as he only threw for 274 yards and had 2 interceptions. So it wasn't a good day for Murray or the Cardinals, really, as they lost to the Green Bay Packers, and that was their first loss of the season. So I know Murray let me down in my fantasy league.
Yeah.
I lost because of it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Murray?
You know, Kyler Murray's been, to me, he's probably the MVP of the season. You know,
Yeah.
he's been amazing, leading the Cardinals to an amazing, you know, 1-loss record. You know, it's a bad game he's had against, you know, another good quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, you know, who's having another good season this year, same with the Green Bay Packers. You know, it's one game also, just like Jefferson, but I think he can obviously rebound and put up some high fantasy points next week.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Murray could rebound because, like I did say, he is on my team, but he actually did pick up an injury in that Packers game. So not only did he not do good, he did get injured, so he might not even play. So I really hope he does return for all purposes for me and for everyone else watching who does have fantasy football. But yeah, so I think that's going to do it. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to the whole 9 yards. Once again, my name is Justin, and this is my boy Carter. And yeah, we enjoy giving you guys football content, and we can't wait to see you guys on the next episode.
See ya.
I'm not getting younger.